Welcome into the DGD podcast. As always, Robert Reynolds got KTG back on for, I think it's going to be a loaded show. Caleb, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing fine. Glad to be back on the show, man. It's been a long time. You know, we're about, what's the Apotheos countdown at now? Ain't it Apotheos?
40. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Free plug. 47 days till Georgia football. God, it feels so damn good. Woo.
Man, once you hit less than 50, it starts boiling in your blood, man. I can't wait. I'm enjoying baseball season. I love the Braves. They're looking good, but dang, I'm ready to see them helmets hit Sanford Stadium and we start lighting up, folks, man.
Just ready to hear those pads pop, man. Goodness gracious. It's so wild because you got SEC Media Day starting today. You've got fall camp starting in, a week and a half, 2 weeks. That everybody looks at today with SEC Media Days as the unofficial start of the season. I kind of agree with that to some degree. Obviously Kirby Smart and Georgia will be Tuesday. I think they're on Tuesday. Just want to give another shout out for SEC Network, 7 o'clock tonight, folks. Them Dogs. Make sure to tune into that. All right, I got that thing set to record. Going to be watching that live anyway. It's that time of season, man. It's just starting to get itchy. Ready to hear some pads popping and some glory to old Georgia after Carson Beck throws his, God knows how many touchdown pass. Can't wait for it. With that being said, first things first, I do want to give a shout out to our first sponsor of the day, Apotheos. They always get the show started because that's how I get my day started every morning, folks. Apotheos, best coffee in the business, and also the official coffee and cold brew sponsor or partner of the Classic City Collective. So when you drink Apotheos, you are supporting the dogs. If you want to support the dogs and help yourself with some free, some delicious coffee, go to dgdpodcast.com. You can shop Apotheos on the drop-down menu, or you can just go to dgdpodcast.com/Apotheos. Learn more about the company, right? They're based out of Kennesaw, Georgia. Midtown Atlanta store opened up recently. Listen, it's the best coffee, I'm telling you, in the business. I love my coffee. They help me out every single morning of the day when you're struggling to go through work. Apotheos helps you out. Follow them on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram is at Apotheos Roastery. Twitter is at Apotheos Coffee. Listen, do yourself a favor. Go to our website, dgdpodcast.com. Get you some coffee, and you will understand just how good that stuff is. My favorite, Classic City Collective Dark Roast. Tried and true. Greatest coffee in the business, especially with them. I love that coffee too. And when you get that red and white bag of coffee and it says Classic City Collective, you just supported the dogs too. That's how you do it. Thanks, Apotheos, for supporting the show. Caleb, I know that sounds like a lot, but I do want to talk about this. JWG in the building says, special guest with the greatest Wi-Fi ever. If you're listening to this, watching this, I should say, hashtag KTG Wi-Fi. The real ones know. Anyways, man, hot takes, bold predictions ahead of the 2023 season. This can be anything, right? Obviously, this is a Georgia-based podcast, so you'll probably hear a lot of Georgia stuff. But if we just so happen to shoot some hot takes around college football, that's all right for today. There are no limits today. So first things first, I'm going to let you start off. What is your first bold prediction or hot take? And we'll talk about that.
Well, if we're going to go non-Georgia based, I'm going to make my first hot take non-Georgia based. Bo Nix and the Oregon Ducks beat USC in the Pac-12 championship and go to the playoffs.
The thing about that is, if we're going to rate that, though, I would say that's not far off, right? The national media is all about some Caleb Williams, and rightfully so. But what I'm not sold on is USC's defense. Just not sold on that defense, right? As long as Alex Grinch is there, I just have no confidence in that defense, right? We saw Utah torch it twice. Touraine did it, right? Touraine beat them in the bowl game. You can say what you want. I just don't trust that defense. So when you look at Oregon and what they bring a type of defense that's going to solidify themselves in the hunt for the Pac-12. Not Lanning's first year either. right? And I think that's going to matter too, because you take some lumps, right? Kirby's first year, right? When you going back to 2016, hell, we had losses to Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, almost lost to Nicholls State. At that point, you're like, did we make the right hire? You immediately thought these things, right? And then you look at year two, Kirby Smart goes to the national championship, play away from winning that damn thing, right? Not saying that that's what Lanning's going to have happen. However, I think there's a lot of things to learn from getting your system in. So I think that's very realistic. Now, I do think that you have to watch out for it, because Pac-12 is going to be weird. They always cannibalize themselves, right? Especially last year. For some reason, it was just wild to watch that conference just eat itself alive. So I think it's kind of a bold take. I do think that, being that specific matters. But I think when you look at it, it's not necessarily as hot as some of these you'll probably hear, just based off of the fact that those are arguably two of the best teams in the Pac-12. I mean, you do have to watch out for Washington. I think Washington with Michael Penix there is going to be very interesting to watch out for. But I do think, what's your logic on why you think that? Did I just steal your thunder, or or is there something different logically that makes you think that?
Well, I don't know. It just feels like right now, I don't know. I feel like Oregon's going to actually make the playoff. Bo Nix took the next step last year. He did take a step up. I just think that they have a good enough offense to stick with somebody like a USC and Washington. I think their defense is going to be a little better than both of those, even though Washington's got a pretty good defense too. I just think Oregon's got the team. So it's just something speaking to me.
Yeah, I feel you. I see. We got Seed Vision in the building. It says "Go Dogs." I'll always give that a go, Dogs. Welcome into the brigade. I think my take. I'm gonna go Georgia based here, and I want to do something with. I think Georgia offensively, their points per game, they break the record this season. They are the highest points per game average in Georgia history this season. And there's multiple facets. One, I look at it this right here, and maybe this is not as hot as take as some, but I think you might see a 42 point per game, point per game average, 42. Right? I think the highest was 41.7 or something like that. I think they ellipse that with 42. If all indications are right, our schedule is not as strong as it could be. So you have that. Even with a new quarterback, I think Carson Beck opens this offense up more vertically than what Stetson did. Now, at the same time, right, Stetson, you're a Stetson lover. You know what he brought to this team. The experience, the IQ, pre-snap reads, all these things. I definitely just think that Carson Beck, though, is more of that. He based off of what I saw at G-Day, KTG, I saw it in a sense that, like, he has pure control over this offense, which leads me to believe that you're going to see a lot of points early and often. Put the game out of reach. However, when you take a look at what happened last season, when the second string came in, we still operated the offense. When you have Carson, if Carson is the guy, which I think we probably say it's safe to say that he will be the guy, but whether it be Brock or Gunner after him, I still think both of those guys need to operate the offense, kind of similar to what happened last year with Carson Beck. So I don't necessarily see you just hand the ball off. I think you see a little bit what happened with Carson last year, where you're able to operate the offense. Those guys need that, especially Brock. If Brock Vandegrift is your backup, he needs to come in and operate that offense. He's been here long enough. It's time to him. You should have the comfortability with him to operate the offense. The talent is unmatched, right? We're deep in all positions, in my opinion. So even with that being said, there's no reason for Georgia not to eclipse a 42 point per game margin. That's my take for the points per game situation.
I like that tape. I'm gonna double down on the offense and say Arian Smith stays healthy and becomes Carson Beck's favorite target.
That's going to be a beautiful thing too, because as deep as this receiver room is, Caleb, I think it's going to be interesting to see who steps up, because with Carson there, you have the offensive line that I think is the strongest unit in the group. Deepest, I think, is receivers. So who builds that chemistry the fastest, right? Is it Dominic Lovett? Is it Dylan Bell? I think Dylan Bell's a sneaky play, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But could it be Dylan Bell? Could it be Marcus Rosemy, Arian Smith? If Arian Smith stays healthy, I'm going to add to this. Arian Smith, if healthy, will eclipse 800 yards. I think it's possible because of how good his arm is. I think you could see Arian Smith if he stays healthy. Right, that is the dependent variable right there. If he stays healthy, I think there's a chance you see him hit 800. There's no reason for me to believe that Mike Bobo won't get the ball into the hands of his best player, which that leads you to believe is Brock Bowers. That might be true. This might shit on my theory. But the verticality of this offense, the potential for that, could lead me to believe that you could see some deep shots. And I think what will happen is, if that is the case, what I think could happen is you see Carson Beck hit Arian Smith in stride more so than what happened with Stetson Bennett, where he had to slow things down, motor back, right? Carson Beck can get that ball, hit him in stride. And if that's the case, that's the difference between a 50-yard gain, 55, 60-yard, and a touchdown, right? If you hit him in stride, ain't nobody catching Arian Smith. Just going to leave that there. So I doubled down on yours.
I like it.
Let's read some comments here. So Seed Vision agrees that Beck looked impressive during G-Day. Yeah, I mean, he was clearly the best quarterback that day. I don't think that's hard to argue. He also says, anyone still rewatching last season's Georgia football games? I've been doing that since the national title game. Every Saturday at least every Saturday.
I watched the whole SEC network. You know, they had the SEC 60, the whole season in 60 minutes. I watched that whole thing literally the other day. So
you might think that it sounds crazy, but the reason why you go back and you rewatch these games multiple times, there's always going to be that one small wrinkle in a game, regardless of the game, that you won't find if you watch it even twice or three times. It might be the fourth time you see something, you're like, oh shit, that was nice. So you always go back and rewatch them as much as you can. I mean, I got YouTube TV, so for 9 months I'm sitting there watching as much as I can. Obviously, to get my fix too, man. I need college football like that. Bell also gets good looks as well from Carson. Yeah, last season it was very interesting to see Dylan Bell kind of establish that rapport. Now, with that being said, that was also with Carson at the twos. So as Carson transitions to the ones, like I think what will happen in fall camp, I do think you start to look at other guys like, Marcus Rosemary-Jacksaint or Dominic Lovett, like we expect. Who's going to be that kind of guy? You never know. I mean, this receiving core is absolutely deep. There's no question about it, deepest one that Kirby's ever had. So I'm looking forward to seeing this season offensively. KTG, I'm gonna let you take another bold take or prediction.
Bold take prediction. Okay. So, I got some buddies that are about 45 minutes down south of me. My second favorite team, the Florida State Seminoles, they will not win 10 regular season games. A lot of people's got them going at least 10-2, losing to maybe LSU Clemson. I think they stumble a little bit, maybe 9-3.
So Florida State not winning 10 games is what you're saying.
Not 10 regular season games, maybe with a bowl game. But
I see what you're saying. So in the regular season, they hit 9-3 at best. I could see that. I think it'll be interesting to see the ACC how they play out, man. You've got Clemson, which until proven otherwise, right? It's typically Clemson and nobody else. But you'll find out about Clemson early on because they do play Florida State. So it'll be interesting to see there. I think. I'll save this one because I think you could see a bold prediction here. And this might be a hotter one, but I'm gonna run off of it. There's a chance that you could see them go 9-3, but I think they do go 10-2, for what it's worth. You never know. There's always that game that they slip up in. I'm gonna stay in the ACC, and this is my hot take. Duke, of all teams in the ACC, goes to Charlotte for the ACC championship.
Ooh.
I don't think people understand just what Mike Elko did in year one, and I think it will continue to transfer over into year two. Just going to leave that there.
So
I'm telling you right now, think about this. Duke opens up against Clemson. We will see what happens in week one, because if you look at Clemson, Clemson on paper is a lot more talented at almost every position, right? But it's also week one with technically a first-year starting quarterback with Cade Klubnik, even though he got the bowl game. Clemson's defense is going to – if Clemson wins against Duke, Clemson's defense will win them the game. I think with Mike Elko in year two, what better way to set the tone for a Duke football season than to knock off Clemson in week one? I think that is a tricky sleeper game right there for Clemson off the rip. If that happens and Duke somehow beats them, I could think you could see Duke go to the ACC championship. I think Duke is that good. You can argue. Listen, Duke won 8 games in the regular season last year. On the last play or last minute in close game against North Carolina, that's an extra game that they'll just let go. Think about that in year one. What Duke was under the last few years of David Cutcliffe, and what Mike Elko brought. Keep in mind that now that's probably going to be a hotter take there, but I think it's possible.
It is pretty hot. I mean, you got to get them over Clemson and Florida State. It's hot. It's scorching hot. I'd like to see it though. It'd be funny to me.
I mean, listen, this show is all about eating crow eventually. I feel it coming. I ain't worried about it though. That's why you do hot takes and bold predictions.
Yeah. I like it.
I mean, listen, I think that momentum carries over into year two in Durham. And if it does, listen, I think they beat North Carolina this season. I think their schedule is favorable for what it's worth. You definitely see them going bowling again. If you don't go bowling if you're Duke and you don't go bowling this season, there's something happened, in my opinion. Just my thought. Let's see. You got any other ones?
I got one. It's not too hot. It's just fun to pick at them. But I don't think our 3 main rivals, none of the 3, we're talking Florida, Auburn, Georgia Tech, none of them go bowling. I don't think that's that hot of a take, but it's
all
fun.
3 of them. All
three of them miss a bowl game.
So Florida, Georgia
Auburn.
Tech, and Auburn.
Yeah.
I think the one thing to balance this out, to kind of counterbalance this, is Auburn. They've got a rough schedule just being in the West right now. But I think I see your point. I completely see why this would be possible. Georgia Tech, you could obviously look at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech bringing in Haynes King and things like that. Like Brent Key has got Georgia Tech firing. Like you can see the resemblance of a team just getting shit situated. But when it comes to Auburn, Auburn is the enigma there. Like when it comes to Florida, come on. Florida's going to have a struggle time to get 5 wins. Yeah. I think their over under total is 5.5, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they hit the under on that. Like especially if they lose to Utah, they will never see 500 this season. Just based off of look how their schedule is. If they do, then there's something. Then they beat somebody they probably shouldn't have on paper. So there's that. Yeah, I think that's fair. I just think you got to watch out for Michigan. Not Michigan. I see this in the comments. That's why. Excuse me. Auburn. Auburn could be the X factor in that tape.
That's the one. That's the one that was a little wishy-washy with me. But a lot of people's higher on Auburn than I am. I know they got the coach, but does Auburn have the talent? That's the question.
They really are. Seed Vision asks, and this is a good one. Does Michigan go to the playoffs over Ohio State this year? Oh, man, I think this leads me to my take here. Ohio State beats Michigan in the last game of the regular season, and Michigan does not make the playoffs because they probably lose to Penn State as well.
You took mine. You took my next one. I had Penn State going to the Big Ten title game.
Michigan brings back most of their talent, probably the most of the returning talent in all of college football. But I don't think people understand just how good Penn State should be this year. I think Penn State is dependent upon Drew Aller and his success. If you get what he's expected to be, Penn State's going to be a problem. Penn State's only losses were to Ohio State and Michigan. You got Michigan at home this year. Now, why it's not a whiteout, whatever. But I think Penn State has the chance to knock off Michigan. And with that being said, I do think, Seed Vision, that Michigan does not go to the playoffs over Ohio State this year. I think Ohio State or Penn State would. However, if I had to choose, I would say Ohio State. And no, I don't think Ryan Day loses his job. If Ryan Day loses his job this year, that would probably in my opinion, that would probably be one of the biggest blunders in Ohio State in recent memory. While you and the reason why I say that is this: I think you have to understand what just happened last season from an Ohio State perspective. You took the back-to-back national champions to the very end. Excuse me. You took Georgia to the very end, gave them every single thing you had, and ultimately it was a missed field goal away from a national championship. There's no reason why you should let him go after that. None. So if they do let him go, that is an astronomical blunder from Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think
that would make no sense. Listen, you can argue for specific coaches, right? Billy Napier is one that, you could see potentially Jimbo Fisher if things don't work out. But if you're telling me Ohio State we're going to let go of Ryan Day, I would laugh in your face. There's no reason for it this year. At least this year. Listen, you bought an extra year playing Georgia the way you did because ain't nobody do that last year. Just going to leave that there. Yeah, so we took that one right there. I think moving on here, I want to go to the Big 12. My take is this. Texas and Oklahoma both come into the SEC without a Big 12 title in 2023.
That one's hard because a lot of people have Texas winning the Big 12.
People look at Texas. Listen, I might be wrong on this one, so be it.
Oh, it's a hot take. You're supposed to be.
But I'm just saying, I think you have to understand, right, when you look at the Big 12, there's some teams there that I'm kind of intrigued about. And playing with Texas is going to face some extremely hostile environments, right? Just going to leave that there. Offensively, they're one of the best teams on paper. I get that. But what are we sold on their defense still or no?
I just ain't sold on the rest of the Big 12. But I want to ask if it ain't Texas and Oklahoma, I know y'all are going to do a prediction show, somewhere down the road, but what's one team that you're looking for in the Big 12? Just curious.
If I had to choose, I think you have to look at Kansas State. Listen, I know they won the Big 12 last year over TCU. I don't see TCU making it back to the Big 12 championship by all means. I just think that, and while Kansas State did lose Deuce Vaughn, I think Kansas State is a sneaky good team in that conference. Keep in mind you do have UCF. UCF could fuck around and do some things in year one. Right? If you don't remember, Missouri comes in, A&M comes in, and just wreaks havoc in the SEC with Manziel. A&M, boy, fucked around and just caught people off guard and stuff like that. Not saying that'll happen, but there's always that chance of a new team coming in and doing things because UCF is on a roll. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I just think that if anyone wins the Pac-12 or Big 12, excuse me, I think it might just be Kansas State. I don't see Kansas doing it. Listen, Kansas was a feel-good story last year. I don't see that happening again. Leopold's a good coach, right, to be able to do what he did there. I just don't see it being enough. But if I had to choose, if it wasn't Texas or wasn't Oklahoma, I'd probably say Kansas State. I don't see Baylor doing anything. I think you could see Dave Aranda lose his job if things don't work well. With Sonny Dykes there in year two, right? TCU did get some good players out of the portal, though. They did become Bama West, for what it's worth. But I think Kansas State just might be a sneaky team. Listen, I'm not sold on Iowa State. I'm not sold on Kansas. Texas Tech, maybe, but I doubt it. If I had to choose one, I'd say Kansas State.
I like that. I was just wondering. I'm when it comes to the Big 12 right now, I'm just scrambled as anybody. I'm leaning Texas, but you don't ever know, especially about the Big 12. Uh, it's a mess over there.
I'm gonna pose this question and see how hot of a take this would be. How hot of a take would this be to say that no SEC West team finished with 10 wins or better? I'm just thinking about this.
I could see it though. I could see it.
The SEC West, like the SEC West, as it stands today, July 17th, the SEC West is very open compared to what it used to be, right? Used to be it was Alabama and everybody else, kind of what the SEC East is right now. So you look at Alabama with their quarterback situation. I think the quarterback situation at Alabama's was really opening things up, because if Bryce Young was at Alabama, this wouldn't be a take, man. It wouldn't. You know this. But you look at what Bryce Young did last year for Alabama, and then the expectation is that, well, you sit there and you look at it, right? They don't have Bryce Young to save them from a couple losses, right? What happens, right? I'm not saying that this is my take. I'm just saying this would be interesting to think about, because who knows what's going to happen in Tuscaloosa week 2. Texas could screw around and beat Alabama in week 2. Then, you do. The one thing I will say that to balance this out, though, is Alabama, their part of their schedule, their hardest games do come at home. They bring Tennessee in. They bring LSU in, right? They do have to go to A&M, though, which you got to be careful with that one. A&M plays them tough. And if A&M gets situated, gets their shit together, I think it'll open up some interesting pieces to that game. If Petrino works at A&M, you could sit here and say Alabama takes an L in College Station. Again, a lot of variables there, man, that are unknown at this point, right? Will Petrino work? Shit, I don't know. You might be sitting here looking at Petrino being the head coach of somewhere else next year, right? There's a good chance he's auditioning for an SEC head coaching job. Fuck, if Auburn brings in Hugh Freeze, why isn't Bobby Petrino not going to be somewhere?
Yeah,
just going to leave that there. So yeah, if I'm rating this boldness scale, man, I think it's like a 6.5. I just feel like either LSU or Bama is going to win 10 games. I understand if you look top to bottom in the SEC West, there is a lot of parity there. Well, not parity, good teams, I should say. I'm not going to say it's truly on par, but I think you look at Arkansas having KJ Jefferson, that's going to be a make or break year for Sam Pittman, because after that, you don't have KJ Jefferson, and that's been I feel like, crutch for Sam Pittman. And their schedule is fucking brutal this year, too. Mississippi State is an enigma, right? Without Mike Leach there, how's that going to look? Not necessarily sold on them competing in the top tier of the SEC West. I think it's still tiered out where you got Bama, LSU, and probably A&M. Talent-wise, A&M should be in the top portion of that. But just last year, shit did not get together, and it just spiraled out of control. You bring in Petrino, which I think it poses a question. How do you feel about Petrino at A&M? Do you think it works, or do you think it doesn't?
That's a tough question to ask right now, because we know that Jimbo likes to run the offense. He's going to probably still call the plays. Now, I don't know if he's made any announcements on who's going to be doing the play calling. If it's Petrino, I think A&M takes a step up. I mean, they can't really take one backwards. Let's be honest.
No, from last year,
4-8,
5-7 actually, 5-7.
They went 5-7 last year.
Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, no, it might be 4.
They went 4-8.
Maybe.
I don't know. I know it was bad.
They didn't go bowling for damn sure.
No, they didn't go bowling. I thought they were 3-8 when they beat LSU. I don't know.
Maybe, you're probably right. I thought I saw something about a 5-7, but you're probably
either way,
right.
They were terrible. I think if Jimbo cuts Petrino loose, lets him do his thing, I think it would work.
Well, that's my thing though. Like when you look at Jimbo's stubbornness is going to end up costing him a job. I think when you actually probably, I don't know when he's coming on today, but he's coming on SEC Media Days today. He speaks today. So I think it'll be interesting to hear how he says, because I feel confident that you're going to hear this kind of question at SEC Media Days about Petrino. What's going to happen there with the play calling? So I think you can't take away everything, but I do think it matters how he says things and what he says. When it comes down to it in these games, because think about it, they play Miami in week 2 in Coral Gables. So while I think they beat Miami, I think it'll be telling to how they beat them, if they beat them, right? If it's a dominating offensive performance, there you go. So, Pat fact, Texas A&M was 5-7.
It was 5-7, all right.
So I was right. Yes. But anyways, you look at week 2. If I think that's a hinge game, kind of turning point in their season. If they win that game, I think you continue on with their slate of SEC games and compete for SEC West. If they lose to Miami, there's a good chance shit just falls downhill again, or at least the possibility of it could happen again. You should not lose. You should not lose to Miami. But if you do, who knows what the fuck's gonna happen? You know what I mean? It could get ugly. Excuse me. We're seeing DG Pat in the building. The Strider Stash is in the building for those watching. Caleb the GOAT, and KTG for Heisman. David Jackson poses a question here. Our dogs hunt, so I understand why nobody likes us, but don't the trophy look good on the wall? Boy, 2 of them look good, don't they? I like it. I like the double trouble. So, yes, go dogs. Excuse me. Welcome to the
It's
brigade,
like my boys say. It's like they say every off season. Add another number on the wall. I love that saying. I love seeing them added, dude. 3-peat, that ain't a hot take either. That's just a fact. That's a KTG fact. 3-peat.
Yep. I'm going to make a bold prediction, and this is bold because it's so specific. Georgia 3-peats, but they beat. I'm trying to think. I want to make sure I get this right. Georgia beats USC in the playoffs to 3-peat.
In the playoffs in the first round?
In the national championship.
In the Natty. Georgia versus USC.
Yep.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
You know what, though? Hear me out. If that game were to take place, I don't think it's a game.
I don't either.
Because Georgia would run that offense. It would just run it down their fucking throat. They can't stop it. They can't stop the run. Right?
I'll be real. I was praying for USC last year instead of Ohio State. I knew Ohio State was better than USC. So
because we knew they had somewhat of a defense. Like, listen, it could turn out to a shootout, right? And my Trojan fans, if you're listening and you're a Trojan fan and you find this, come on my Twitter and tell me why I'm wrong. Well, let's sit there and have a debate on this. I just don't trust y'all's defense, man. Alex Grinch is not the answer, but I'm just saying their offense poses such a threat that they could beat anyone, right? But I just think Georgia's defense is just too suffocating. It would stop it. But if you don't stop Caleb Williams, that's what happens. I'm gonna make another bold take. Stay around the SEC. I want to do this. LSU makes a quarterback change to Nussmeier at some point in the season. Why not?
That one's hot. I just think Jaden Daniels is the guy, as I like to call him, Jaden Carter. But
I'm just gonna leave it here, though, man. Think about it. You gotta worry about injury concerns.
That's true. See, I was gonna make that take about Georgia. I was gonna make a take that Carson Beck wasn't gonna be the starter by the end of the season, but I don't know if I can go that hot.
No, I think Carson's got too much control of the offense to do that. I agree. Well, I mean, if anything, he has a bad game and you bench him for that one game, I don't see it being an issue. I think the defense will bail you out. The defense will be too good, and our schedule just doesn't bode for that. So you need Carson Beck to get as much in-game reps because you got to prepare for the playoffs. So let him work through it and trust your defense.
So hold on, let's go back to this LSU one.
Okay.
I like it. That's bold. That's bold because I think Jaden Daniels is really good. I think Jaden Daniels gives LSU their most potential too. I think he's got more potential to take them further than Nussmeier just because he's got a really good arm. I think a lot of people sleep on it, but his legs, man, like you said, he's got to stay healthy though.
The problem with the reason why I think LSU would be better with Nussmeier is the dynamic of the offense that he opens up with the receivers that they have. You should not be dinking and dunking down the field. With Nussmeier, and you saw this against Georgia. Georgia wasn't prepared for this as well as I think they should have been. However, the signs of them hitting the vertical downfield passing game comfortably should bode well for the future for LSU. Nussmeier with the vertical approach to that offense is scary. And I think if that happens, right, like what happens if LSU comes out cold, right, when they shouldn't be? And you change it up, and then they start hitting vertical shots and open up the receivers more, right? Like, get them out in space or like get them downfield. I mean, dude, Neighbors is too good to not take advantage vertically, right? So that's where I'm coming from, right? Like, there's always that chance for injury, but even then, I think you could see, because what if you go through a stretch where LSU struggles because they have a rough spot in their schedule, I would assume. So there's a chance, right? And I think if Nussmeier comes in, I think it just opens up a dynamic on that offense.
I like the take. It's super hot. I see what you're saying. I think Jaden Daniels is the guy though. Because honestly, before he got hurt, Jaden Daniels was throwing the ball downfield too. He was. Besides the Florida State game, that game was just a regardless. Both teams look like hot doo-doo. But I mean, Jaden Daniels was hurt at the beginning of the Georgia game, and like you said, Georgia wasn't prepared for Nussmeier. We were up 30-7. So, I mean, I think the Nussmeier hype train's a little too hype at the moment. He may prove me wrong, but
as I start to look into it, though, right, the game plan the game plan in the second half that Georgia that made this happen, and if you go back and look at this, it makes sense. Georgia was willing to give up yardage between the 25s, right? You can get what you want. You take what you want between, from 125 all the way to the other 25. Anything in between you can take. But once you get to the 25-yard line and in, you're not moving on us, right? When you go to take a look at their touchdowns to get them to 30 points, tell me how many were from within the 20 were within the green zone, the 25 and in.
Good point.
I think it was by design. Kirby, people look at yardage, and it proved the point. People looked at yardage and were like, "Oh, you gave up 500 yards of passing." We beat them by 20. We gave up yards. We didn't give up points. Or if we did give up points, we scored back. Right? So this is why yardage statistics don't always matter, because it doesn't paint the full picture. When you have the final score 50-30 with 500 yards of passing, you only scored 30 points with 500 yards of passing. See what I mean? It changes things. Before we go on, I do want to bring on a shout out our second sponsor, Alumni Hall. Listen, licensed Nike gear, Cutter and Buck, you name it, they've got it. Check out dgpodcast.com. Also in the drop down where you can shop Alumni Hall as well, or you can check them out in store, right in Athens, GA, 10 minutes away from the stadium. 1791 Oconee Connector, number 535. If you're trying to go there to the store itself. Listen, excellent stuff. The polo I've got on come from there, so keep that in mind. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Hey.
Thank you, Alumni. Right. If it comes to playing LSU again, Jaden Daniels, know we love him, and we'll pick him up and show the world he's our girlfriend and he belongs to us. David Jackson coming in with a hot take right there of his own.
Hey, that's comment I've seen all year.
That's comment of the day right there. I'm going to do one more take with Georgia. and then I'm going to let you wrap it off for the day. I think Georgia has – it's going to be fun. I think Georgia has a 10-sack guy this year. One. I think Georgia will have a guy with 10 sacks. 10 plus. If I had to choose who it would be, give me Michael Williams.
That's who I was thinking too. I like that take. Actually, I think you're gonna be right.
To compound this, I think you see if we go true freshman, I want to make this even more specific to make it hotter. Damon Wilson has, I'm going to be specific on this, 8 sacks as a freshman. His pass rush is insane.
He's good.
His get off is some of the best in college football, or at least I think on the team. I'll say it on the team. I think he's got some of the best get off on the team. And when you think about the third and long situations that Georgia could be faced defensively, right, stopping teams on third and long, why not? Why not? I think you got to watch out for Mpemba as well. But yeah. To keep it specific, I think Damon Wilson could have 8 sacks as a freshman, and I think Mike Hill gets to 10 sacks. You know what that means? You know what that means?
What's that?
Them dogs are going hunting.
Always.
Them dogs will hunt.
I'm gonna go on a Georgia one. I want to say
make this good. Make this good because
I'm gonna make this one quick before we get into the Georgia one. Colorado does not cover their win total. I'm gonna keep it there. That's all I got to say.
What's their projected? 3?
3. They don't cover. They may push. They don't cover.
Okay, so they're projected at 3 on the dot, right?
I don't think it's 3.5. I think it's right at 3.
If it's 3, I could see them hitting 3, but that's still a progression, though. I mean,
that's a push, though.
I know it's a push, but I'm just saying overall from the team perspective, going from the worst team in Power 5 football, that matters.
That's a step in the right direction. That too. I just think these Colorado or people that think Colorado's won 8-9 ball games is crazy.
Yeah.
My hot take though, this Georgia draft class beats the 2021 record.
That's not even a hot take.
You don't think so?
Wait, repeat that again so I make sure I heard that correctly though.
Georgia has more than 15 players drafted this year.
That's not too much of a stretch when you look at all the players that could leave. It's still a lot of guys to get drafted. It's a lot of guys to get drafted. But let's break this down. Offensively alone, Carson Beck has a good year. Carson Beck. Kendall Milton. I think Kendall Milton, if he stays healthy, Kendall Milton's get drafted. Dejan Edwards.
He's right there, though. That's 3 if he's right there.
I'm going to bank on it, though. There's no reason not for Carson Beck to have a good season. You got enough rotation to keep Kendall Milton healthy. I think it can happen. Dejan Edwards, I think Dejan Edwards has a good year and can go, right? That's 3. Receivers, right? Dominic Lovett, that's 4. Marcus Rosemary-Jack Saint can go, probably be a late-round draft pick. That's 5. Who else? Arian Smith, if he stays healthy, he's gone. That's 6. Brock Bowers, that's 7. Tate Ratledge, 8. Cedric Van Pran, 9. Amarius Mims, 10. Let's see. Xavier Truss pushing it there. It was an iffy one. But that's double digits just off the offense potential.
That's if, though. That's a bunch of ifs.
No. I mean, tell me the guys that get drafted to break the record.
The what now?
Tell me the players that break the record. Who gets drafted that makes up the record for you?
I'd have to go back and look. I was looking at it last night, trying to get some hot takes. I mean,
I don't know if that's necessarily hot. I think it's going to happen.
You think so?
Now, the hot take will be trying to break that record.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to be tough. Listen, Georgia's setting themselves up with how they recruit and how they perform on the field to legitimately just continually push guys into the NFL. I mean, hell, think about this, man. Every single linebacker that's played under Lanning and Schumann that played a starting snap, they're on an NFL roster actively. That's nuts.
It is
That is
crazy.
nuts. Let's see. David Jackson. We'll read this comment and then we're going to wrap things up. He says, so David Jackson says, we win again. I think more because Kirby has become an NFL factory and they trust the product. Listen, when you can push that product out there, man, every single game in, game out, right? For the most part, overall body of work, getting back-to-back national championships, that's what success looks like, right? I think you see Kirby Smart was the defensive coordinator on the last back-to-back team. That's 2011, 2012 Bama. So he knows a little bit about how to maintain this, right? I'm sure he knows how hard it is to try to go three-peat, right? It's hard. It's never been done since if you count the 30s. So I'll leave that there. Anyways, I think that's a good comment to wrap up on. KTG, man, where can people find you if they want to follow you?
Y'all come over to the old purple side. We're on twitch.tv/KTG13TV. I know a lot of you have followed me on the Facebook. We almost hit 10,000 on that, but we have changed our ways over to Twitch. So twitch.tv/KTG13TV. We talk a lot of, we're playing baseball right now. We got about a little less than a month on baseball, and then we're going to switch it over to NCAA 14. We'll see Pokey Bear come out again and all that good stuff, man. But yeah, go follow me on twitch.tv/KTG13TV. And big shout outs to Rob for having me. I always love this. Is my favorite podcast in the world, and I love being on it.
Oh man, you're making me blush over here. Jesus. With that being said, folks, take a hot take. If you're watching this, make sure to let us know in the comments below how stupid these takes are. If you have a hot take, post them below. I'll get to them. We can argue or whatever. Don't matter. But I went this whole show. We went this entire show without telling you to smash that like button, folks. Ring the bell to subscribe. It's completely free. Helps the show out in more ways than you can imagine. And it lets you know when we go live on stuff like this. Listen, the season is fastly approaching. That 2023 season. Expect a lot of content out of here. And listen, it's going to be we do it year round, but it's about to pick up. All right, just going to let y'all know that now. So go ahead and stay in the loop, like, subscribe. Make sure you get them notifications as well. So when we go live, you can watch it live. Or if you're listening on podcast, remember, same day. So you will get the show same day. Keep that in mind. That matters. I know. So with that being said, make sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. Leave us a review. Let us know, hey, if you don't like it, let me know so I can get better at it, right? Simple as that. If you hate my takes, let me know. Shit. It is what it is. With that being said, though, have a great day. We will come back here. See you Wednesday. Go Dogs. KTG, thanks again for coming on the show, sir. We will catch y'all next time. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.